Hi all, welcome to my YouTube channel Project MIS. My name is Sumit Kumar Ambastha, and in today's video we are going to talk about stakeholder analysis. Before we begin with stakeholder analysis, first we'll understand in brief what is a stakeholder and whom we refer as a stakeholder, and then we come to analysis part. So analysis is a four steps driven process where first we will understand how to identify the stakeholder. Once we identify the stakeholder, we will figure out a way to collect more information about stakeholder, and once we gather more information we will be able to do the prioritization, so we can understand who has what level of priority in the project or in the system where we are working, and then based on the priority we will develop the engagement strategy for those stakeholders. So that's the overall in brief stakeholder analysis. So let's deep dive into detail and understand more, starting from the stakeholder and then stakeholder analysis. Let's understand who are stakeholders. Stakeholder is an individual or group to interact with directly or indirectly. Whatever is the initiative on which we are working, we are surrounded with people and we are dealing with them either directly or indirectly. Whoever we are dealing with directly or indirectly are the people who are called stakeholders. And when we speak to stakeholders, we understand the requirement in detail. We might get a new set of assumptions or new constraints. As in more we talk more with stakeholders, we come to know something extra about the project that can be either requirement or assumption or constraint. In general, who all can be referred as stakeholder? This is not the full list of stakeholder, it is a part of the list. Stakeholder can be anything, depends on the initiative on which we are working. For example, business analyst, customers, domain subject matter expert, end users, operational support people, project manager, regulators, sponsor, supplier, tester. So if you see in detail, we have certain people who are internal in nature to the organization, but people like regulators, they might be external. So so when you are calling someone as a stakeholder, they can be either internal or external also. So that's a brief about the stakeholder. Now let's jump towards stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder analysis is a four steps driven process. So first we will be understanding how we can identify the stakeholder. Then we will figure out the way to collect information about the stakeholders. Based on the information what we are collecting, we will prioritize them, and based on the prioritization we will develop the engagement strategy with the stakeholder. So that's the process for stakeholder analysis. And why we are doing the stakeholder analysis, that's the important part which we have to understand, is that when we are dealing with the stakeholders, so we are dealing with to meet their expectation, their needs, and that is what the primary purpose to engage with them. So until and unless we understand more about stakeholder and understand their needs and expectation and their level of involvement in the project, we will not be able to derive a plan so that we can meet their needs and expectation. So that's the need for stakeholder analysis. Now we will first identify the stakeholders. So you will be having some project document, or you may be talking to so many people when you start any of the project or any of the initiative. Based on the discussion, we can identify the list of people or list of role with whom you are going to interact, and that's how we form the initial list of stakeholders. Whatever list you make in the beginning, that is the list to start your work. That should not be the final list of stakeholder. As and when you come to know more about the stakeholders, new set of people, you keep adding them. But we have to follow the whole four steps process whenever we come to know about a new stakeholder. For an example, it can be customer, end users, project team members, executives, regulatory bodies. Anyone can be called as a stakeholder. So now we have identified who all are our stakeholders. Then we will start collecting the information about those stakeholders. So if you have identified four or five different stakeholders, Then you figure out how you can talk to them. You can either organize interview with them, you can even also try to roll out a new survey, or develop any communication approach through which you can interact more with them. And until and unless we discuss and talk more with them, we will not be able to collect more information about them. So we have to engage with them first to understand the details about them, and based on that detail we will follow with our next process, which is called prioritization. Before prioritization, what we are doing, we are identifying, we are categorizing the stakeholder in a four different category. And those category can be high influence, high interest, high influence, low interest, then low influence, high interest, and low influence, low interest. What is this categorization? So when we understand more about the stakeholder, we will understand how they are engaged with the product, or how they are engaged with the project initiative on which we are working. And based on their level of interest and level of influence, we prepare this categorization. So prioritization is something when we are classifying the stakeholder in four different category, and that's how we will understand who are the stakeholders who are most critical for the success of this project. So you can make your plan accordingly. Also, when you have the prioritization, you focus more on those set of stakeholders who have the higher significance, higher importance in the project. If we have people who are the top decision maker, who are having the high interest in the project, and if you are talking about some requirement coming from them, then that will have the different level of priority. But if you are talking about a stakeholder who are having very less interest in the project, they are not having any influencing power in the project, and if any of the requirement is coming from them, then definitely that will be having little lesser priority. So, what is the source of the information which is coming to you? Based on that information, you take a call that what should be the priority of those incoming information. So that's how we use prioritization. There are some techniques like influence interest grid, which we can make and which we will be talking about in our next slide. So we can understand how we can categorize stakeholder and how we can use that information in the project. So it's a very simple matrix, very simple approach, which we call as an influence interest grid. So what is important here to first understand, there are two axes, x and y, what we are using here. One axis we are using as an interest, and the other axis is depicting influence. So definitely, as per the normal graphical approach, we start with the low and move towards high, and then again the y-axis also start with the low and move towards high. So we have four different boxes we have made here. This the monitor box. This is low level of interest and low level of influence. This light yellow box, it is having higher level of interest but lower level of influence. Same way, this dark blue box, it is having lower level of interest but higher level of influence. And the bright yellow one, this box is having higher level of interest and higher level of influence. So they are the people who are the top people. They are having the higher influence also in the project. They are having higher interest also in the project. So based on this their uh, location, like where in which box they will be falling in, based on their positioning, we will be standardizing the approach. So if anyone falls under this light blue box, then the approach we will be following is the monitor. If someone is falling in this light yellow box, then we will be following approach like keep informed. So any activity what we do, we should be ensuring that they are informed about that, because they are having the higher interest. Anyone who is falling in this dark blue box, we have to keep them satisfied. Means they are having the higher influence and interest is low. So because they are having higher influence, so they have that influencing capacity in the project. So we have to make sure that their need and expectations are met, and then manage closely the bright yellow box. This bright yellow box is something who are having higher influence, higher interest. So both the things are on the higher peak. So it means we have to manage them very, very closely. Whether it is coming any requirement, any expectations from them, any decision making is there, we have to make sure that we are managing them very closely, and we are ensuring that they are in agreement with all our approach. So that's the, in brief, that's the influence interest grid we talk about. So if we are into the monitor segment, then we have to ensure that stakeholder interest or influence do not change. So first thing, we understand they are having the lower level of interest. At the same time, we have to keep monitoring that at any given point of time, their interest or influence level should not be changed. If they are transforming towards the keep informed or transforming towards keep satisfied box, then we have to immediately reflect in our stakeholder mapping, and we have to react accordingly. If someone is falling in keep informed box, then we have to make sure they are, like, always aware about what is happening in the project. So we have to keep them always informed about it. If anyone is falling in the keep satisfied box, they are the people who are having higher level of influence. So we have to make sure they are always satisfied with all the activity which is going in the project. And then if anyone is falling under manage closely box, then we have to make sure they are in agreement with all our approach, because they are the people who are supporting the change. And if anything which we are working upon, and if that work is not coming in their expectation, in line with their expectation, then definitely there will be some kind of mismatch will be there in the expectation, and we'll be having some kind of issues. So we have to make sure their expectations are met, and we are monitoring them very, very closely. Now, once we understand the level of priority for the stakeholder, based on that priority, we develop the engagement strategy with the stakeholders, and how we should be approaching them, what should be our communication approach when we have to speak to them. When we are doing the requirement elicitation, for an example, if we are capturing some information, then how we are passing on that information to them, or we have to, which group we have to involve to take the decision, which groups we have to reach out to make them aware about those information. So those kind of strategy we should be forming once we have the information about the prioritization. So that's about it about stakeholder analysis. I hope this video is helpful for you people to understand what is stakeholder and what is stakeholder analysis. If you have any point, any question which you have to clarify with me, if you have any additional observation which you want to share with the group, I request you all to please post that in the community or the comment box. And my contact informations are given here. You can reach out to me anytime using any of these communication channel. And thank you so much for watching this video, and looking forward to see you in my next video in the next week. Thank you so much.